The views expressed on the Warren and Bradley Show are not necessarily those held by the hosts, Warren and Bradley, nor those of the proprietors of the website, warrenandbradley.com.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fire!
Let's make some magic.
It is magic time. Hello, and welcome once again to the Warren and Bradley Show. I am one of your hosts, Bradley Victor.
I'm the other host, Warren Van.
This is episode 62 of the Warren and Bradley Show on a beautiful day in Bellingham, Washington. The sun is shining. It's like 50 degrees outside right now.
Yeah, it's shocking.
I was downtown earlier today, and there were people in tank tops, shorts,
yes,
sunglasses. It is unseasonably warm for this time of year, and it feels springish, but it's, February 2nd or something as we record this.
I had lunch with my dad this afternoon, and as we went out to lunch, he was remarking about, we made it. He's like, we made it through the winter.
No, we didn't.
That's what he keeps telling me.
We've got like 3 months left.
Well, that's what I want to tell everybody, right?
Yeah.
Winter started less than a month and a half ago.
Yeah.
It's a quarter of the year.
Yes.
So we do have more than half of winter to go.
Well, and it's also the Pacific Northwest weather patterns and climate. It's going to be cold and rainy for months and months and months. It doesn't become, spring sort of starts maybe in May.
It's not nice. But it's not nice till July.
Yeah, it's not nice until July.
Yeah,
I like spring here because it's a temperature that I can tolerate. It's like 55 degrees as opposed to 72 degrees like we have in the summer. I've lived other places. This is probably the best climate that I've found. I was downtown today and I was in a fairly okay mood, but there was this one guy who was bugging the hell out of me. It was in the bagelry. Mm-hmm. He was not talking to me. He had nothing to do with me, but it was just me overhearing the conversation he was having with his wife. He was this kind of roly-poly, slump-shouldered kind of guy that you see and you just want to... just the sad sack.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was about him. He was just like just pissed off and just kind of whiny, complainy guy. He was sitting there at a table waiting for his wife to come back. She was ordering the bagels or whatever. She came back and they were sitting down waiting for the waitress to come and bring the bagels. Waitress brought the bagel back. The guy looked at his bagel. And he pulled it apart and was like, And he looked at his wife and she was like, what's wrong? And you could tell that this is the kind of relationship they have where she's constantly walking on eggshells because he's disappointed by everything. And he's like, this isn't plain cream cheese. And she went, I ordered plain cream cheese. I said plain cream cheese. It's like, look, there's stuff in it. It's like, I don't, what is it? And he takes the bagel apart, he's sniffing it.
Yeah.
He's kind of like, he took his finger and sort of put it in the cream cheese and tasted it. And he's like, I think there's jalapenos in here. That would be hot. And I looked at the cream cheese and immediately recognized it as their feta dill cream cheese.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Which is quite delicious, actually.
That sounds great.
And there was about a 10-minute conversation of him looking at this bagel, kind of with this just look of disappointment and disgust on his face. He kept accusingly looking at his wife. Did you order plain cream cheese? Yes, I swear I ordered plain cream. And I'm just wanted to scream at him, either take the fucking bagel back or just eat the goddamn bagel. How long are you going to deliberate on this fucking bagel? And finally, he took a bite, and he had this big mustache too. He took a bite like you used to as a child. Where he
right through the middle?
Just bit into the bagel and had cream cheese all over his mustache and sat there for the next 10 minutes complaining about how the cream cheese tasted while it was all over his mustache. He would not wipe his fucking mustache off. It was driving me insane. And it kind of hit home this whole idea of comfort. And I think this is a very first world problem where we are obsessed with never being uncomfortable. Ever. If the temperature isn't 74 degrees in your apartment or in your house, people are like, oh my God, it's freezing in here. It's this really weird thing. And I think it's very important. And I think most of the world, I'd say 90% of the population of the earth does not have this problem because they're constantly uncomfortable and suffering and having horrible things like either hunger or dirty water or drought or things going on all the time. But we are so pampered that we have to devise some sort of problem. And your problem might be that, I don't know.
There's feta and dill dill in your cream cheese.
There's feta dill in your cream cheese instead of plain cream cheese.
But the weird thing is about that, right? You are creating a problem, right? Because really, that guy didn't have any issues during that time when he was at the bakery, right?
No.
He had plenty of food. It was a perfectly reasonable temperature. He was sitting in a chair. He was fine.
Yeah.
But he was making like an arduous task to eat this bagel.
Right.
It wasn't that big a deal.
And just looking at him, you could tell that there would be nothing that would ever really satisfy him.
Oh, yeah.
There would always be something that he could complain about. And that just seems to be a trend. Like, we have to complain constantly. And I feel like one of the best things that you can do for yourself and just your mindset is to experience discomfort. Let yourself experience discomfort. And I try to do this to myself sometimes where
Yeah.
no, I'm not like
Cutting yourself?
I'm not like a flagellants who would beat themselves with staves
the
or something
Black
as they were
Plague.
running around.
Yeah.
No, but my job entails a great deal of discomfort. It's basically, depending on what I'm doing on any given day, it could be me being exhausted and in pain, but just forcing myself to continue the entire time, or it's, 23 degrees and you're working out in it and it's cold and it sucks. And I was telling you earlier before we started recording that I've been watching Deadliest Catch for some reason.
Yeah.
I've gotten
Not comfortable, those guys.
no. And just imagining most Americans, and that's one thing I like about the show, is there's idiots who watch The Deadliest Catch and they're like, oh, I'm going to do that. I'm going to prove that I could do that. And so they write letters, they send pictures and little videos to the different captains and like, come on, hire me.
Really?
Oh, yeah. And so then some dude will go up to Alaska and hang out in the bars where the captains hang out, or just like sit out on the dock hoping that they can get on one of the boats. And they get on the boat and there's some like pudgy, doughy dude from, I don't know, Cincinnati or something.
Yeah.
And he gets up there and he's like, oh my God. And they actually have to work and they have to put up with things and conditions that they wouldn't normally have to.
Well, it's the distinction between actually being in a movie about like somebody who's catching crab,
Yeah.
and actually going out and catching the crab.
Well, yeah, working for 36 hours straight
Yeah.
in insane, like 40-knot winds and 25-foot seas.
It's very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that everybody at some point in their life needs to force themselves to be uncomfortable, because then you're not going to start complaining about the feta dill in your bagel. If I had ordered a bagel with plain cream cheese and they gave me a feta dill bagel, I would say, all right, what are you going to do? And I would eat the feta dill.
Yeah, I would just do that too.
Yeah.
I would just be like, this is fine. I mean, it's not exactly what I wanted, but it's
No.
a bagel with cream cheese.
In the
It'll
greater
do.
scheme of things, it's not that big a deal.
You're making a problem for yourself if you
Yeah.
are sad about it. You're mourning the bagel you could have potentially had if they had
Exactly.
gotten it correct. Yeah, whining in general.
Yeah.
I know.
You're not a whiner, and I've always appreciated
No,
that.
I'm not a whiner, and I have to be around some whiners in my workplace. Of all the things that I can't stand the whining.
Yeah.
It's like fingernails on a chalkboard. It's like being poked in the eye.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't be around it. So I used to have this problem where it drove me so insane that as you'll recall, listeners, I quit my job. So I couldn't be around it anymore.
Yeah.
Now I'm back. Now I've done it so I actually leave the area where the whining's going on.
Right.
And I try not to be around it, and I return as soon as the whiners leave.
Mm-hmm.
It is so grating.
What are some of the things that people might whine about? At your
The most
workplace?
interesting thing that people whine about at my work is having to do their job.
Right.
I don't know how to explain how frustrating that is.
I know exactly what you mean.
To have
because-
someone come in, see that they have to do their job,
Yeah.
and then start to whine about it. You want to ask them, why did you come here?
Exactly. Shut up and work or fucking quit.
And it's not like they are catching the deadliest catch.
Yeah.
They're doing something extremely simple that a chimp could probably do.
Yes.
It's not demanding in any way. There's a lot of automation involved.
Mm-hmm.
It's very easy. Yet still, the whining. No matter what. I'm going to whine about this. I'm going to whine about the other person. I'm going to whine about what I have to do.
Yeah.
You grow to appreciate the people that you work with who show up to their rather simple job, just do their job and say, like, I'll see you later, and
Yeah.
they leave. And you're like, you are a saint to me.
I don't expect people to be on cloud nine the whole time. They're, some maybe soul crushing, not very interesting or challenging kind of job. I can understand that it can get it can become a grind, but
It's pointless to whine about it.
exactly. It's what is it going to accomplish? All
just
it does is
annoying
make
everyone.
You make yourself more miserable. You make everyone else around you miserable. And this has happened to me too. Normally, I'm not working around a bunch of other people, but sometimes we'll do jobs with larger crews, and there'll be some repetitive, strenuous thing that you have to do, and the person next to you is just like, "Oh God!" the entire time. You're like, "Yes, this is not fun, but we have to do it." And it's
But that
better.
makes it a million times worse, doesn't it? To have
Oh,
that
yeah.
person next to you.
Oh, yeah.
If you have something that's like challenging or something that's like monotonous to do in front of you,
Yes.
and you just like focus in and do the job, it can be annoying, but it's not nearly as annoying if there's someone next to you constantly whining about their job. That makes it so much worse.
I think one of the things I admire most in people is the ability to buckle down and do a task or put up with something that might be unpleasant or uncomfortable without complaining.
Yes.
I appreciate that. So people, stop whining.
Stop whining. I am getting really sick of it.
Speaking of whining, I'll whine about a guy who was bothering me the other day.
Perfect.
Okay, have you ever had this guy? I think I might have even mentioned something similar to this in a previous podcast, but I had parked at a grocery store. I don't know, it was probably early evening, so the lights...
It's always the grocery store.
No, it didn't happen in the grocery store. It was in the parking lot. The lights were on in my truck.
Yeah.
And I was sitting in my truck. I had just turned the engine off, but my lights were still on. I was about to get out of my vehicle and turn my lights off, and I had the guy rap on my window, "Your lights are on! Hey, your lights are on!" Yes, that's because I just turned off my truck and I'm about to get out.
Yeah.
I will turn my lights off. And he's like, "Okay, your lights, I just wanted you to know your lights were on." Like, thank you. That's fine.
The point of telling someone their lights are on is not a game like in Uno where you're supposed to say Uno before anyone else and you get extra points for it.
Uh-huh.
The point is to like save somebody's battery.
Yes.
So the person's actually sitting by
when
the car.
When the person has locked their car and they're walking away and the lights are still on, maybe you can say something.
Yeah.
Of course, a lot of new cars now, the lights will automatically go off after a while.
Yes. The other thing is if you're a customer at a grocery store, you leave the lights on for 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. Not the worst thing in the world.
Probably not.
Not going to kill you.
Most modern batteries can last for a while. It's not like it's going to be all night. I'm not parking my car at the grocery store and then going home and leaving my car there. But what is that mentality with people where they always want to be the first one to jump on something and tell you something that you don't need to know?
Yeah.
And I don't know if they really are trying to be helpful or if it's some other weird impulse that they have where they just want
like to catch somebody out or something.
Yeah, it's almost it's not like he was worried that I was going to leave my lights on and drain my battery. He just wanted to let me know that I was doing something wrong or that I was somehow making a mistake.
Yeah.
It's like the thing where if you trip and fall over and someone's like, "Yeah, watch it there, buddy." And you're like, "Okay, I know I just fell down. I understand that. It wasn't the best experience in the world. I picked myself up. I brushed myself off, and I'm going to walk away. I don't need you to be like, 'Oh, watch your step.'" And it's not even the because it's funny when people fall down.
Yeah.
It's amusing if they haven't hurt themselves. It's not even that. It's not the humor in watching somebody fall on their face. It's
a feeling of superiority that you know something the other person doesn't.
Yeah.
You're showing them. You're like, "Oh, I know about this. You left your lights on. I know about cars. You're not supposed to leave your lights on when you park somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm going to get you. I'm going to get it at you." And it's that's not the point.
See, I go the opposite, where if somebody falls in front of me, like this happened the other day, there was this old woman with her, well, I don't even know. I'm making up all these relationships in my mind, but it seemed as though maybe she was with her adult grandchild, and the adult grandchild fell down on the street, like slipped on a newspaper or something and fell down.
Yeah.
And the old woman immediately looked at me to see if I noticed that the grandchild had fallen, and I immediately turned away to make it seem as though I hadn't even seen it.
Yeah.
And then once the person was back on their feet, then I looked and gave a little nod "Well, hello there." Because I don't want attention drawn to me, and I know that if somebody just eats it on the pavement, they don't want people staring at them. So I will immediately pretend that I didn't notice that they did something ridiculous.
I have that impulse too, right?
Because we're nice,
embarrassing having
kind
somebody.
people.
You don't want to be just go and just stare at them and be like, I'm cognizant of what you just
I'm
did.
laughing hysterically within my own head.
But I don't want to add to their embarrassment.
Exactly.
Right?
I think that's a trait that is missing in most of our society. We live in a society now where, with the lights on, falling down, everyone wants to jump on everything immediately. And it goes on in internet culture, celebrity culture, where you got to call people out constantly. And you have to be the first one to let everyone know that you saw them do something that's embarrassing or uncomfortable.
Yeah, when it doesn't really serve any purpose at all. No. Just let things slide, as I always say.
Yeah. So we've established so far, stop whining. Don't be obnoxious. Don't jump on people's shit all the time.
Yeah.
What's been going on with you lately, Warren?
That's a weird transition.
Change the conversation a little bit.
Where'd you go?
Well, normally I'd ask you that in the first segment, and I forgot to.
Oh, geez. What has been going on with me? I've had a little bit of a cold. Mm-hmm. That's been going around the workplace, I know. Everyone's hacking and blowing their nose. I'm sneezing a lot. I've been doing a lot of sneezing. Mm-hmm. That's really interesting.
It's fascinating, yeah. You going to watch the Super Bowl tomorrow?
You know what? I am going to watch the Super Bowl. I'm not laying any wagers down. I don't know which way it's going to go. I know we're planning in the next segment to have probably a 30 to 40 minute breakdown of the Super Bowl, but yeah, I don't want to jump all over that.
I don't care at all.
You're not interested
about either team, no.
Yeah, but I'll watch it anyways. It's a fun event, I think. The commercials are, always something to watch.
I had the East Indian clerk at the local convenience store ask me about the Super Bowl today. Are you going to watch the Super Bowl? Nah, probably not. It's the big game.
Yep.
I'm like, yeah, it is. It is the big game. It's like, so you're not going to watch? No, I don't think so. I'm not really rooting for either team.
The thing, though, it's a huge part of American culture at this point.
It is.
And I know people have been talking about this for a while, that the Monday after the Super Bowl should probably be a national holiday. I mean, there are lots of holidays we have, right?
Yeah.
People don't care about them.
No.
People don't care about Veterans Day, Memorial Day. People are just like, that's nice, that's fine. We have a day off. The Super Bowl, the majority of Americans participate in the Super Bowl in some way, and watching it or having a party or getting drunk that day. Mm-hmm. It's this incredibly major part of our culture. So even he feels like he's got to bring it up with you.
Well, that's what I love. Like he's trying to fit in or something, and so
it was like when Apu had
Oh yeah,
he was having the immigration problems or something. He had his cowboy hat and he had a Mets shirt on and stuff. He's like, I'm an American.
Well, and then he said, he's like, too bad the Seagulls didn't make it. Yes, it is too bad.
I can see how you would make that mistake, though, right? Especially if you live in a place.
Who's ever heard of a fucking Seahawk?
Well, that's right. There's no such thing as Seahawks. If you move to a place especially where he is in Bumtown here, there's lots of seagulls.
He's from Punjab or whatever.
Yeah, and there's lots of seagulls around. He sees them all the time.
Yeah.
And there's a football team called the Seahawks. He's got to assume they're called the Seagulls, right?
I guess so.
Because you see nothing but seagulls, and there's no such thing as a Seahawk.
Yeah. I had another weird experience in the convenience store. I was trying to get some half and half out of one of the coolers.
Half and half from a convenience store?
Yeah, I ran out. And all of a sudden I heard this disembodied voice being like, "Hello, Bradley." And I was like,
he was in the cooler?
No. Well, that's what I thought at first.
Yeah.
I was like, where the hell did this come from? And I was trying to look behind to see if he was, stocking milk or something in there. And then he's like, "Good day today." And I was like, yes, it's a very good day today. And then as I started walking down the aisle, all of a sudden his head went, and popped out from underneath one of the aisles.
What?
It was the owner of the convenience store. I don't know what he was doing under there. I didn't even realize that there was a crawl space under the beef jerky aisle. But suddenly his head popped out from there. I was like, oh, Jesus Christ.
I can't imagine what he would have been doing down there.
I don't know.
I know many years ago when I worked in the grocery business, you could have some fun times being behind the dairy, right?
Right.
And having people doing things over there and grabbing their hands or surprising them or something.
To customers?
No, not to customers. No, just to each other.
I think the best would just be somebody grabs for the carton of milk and you just hold on to it.
Yeah,
you can't see your hand.
Oh, that's what a great time that is. Let me tell you, people, seriously, you've got to rotate the dairy.
Yeah.
Because if you don't do that, that's why what made me nervous when you talked about the half and half.
Oh, I always look at the expiration
You've got,
date.
especially if you're at a convenience store, right?
Well, even at the grocery store, if I'm grabbing a carton of milk, I look through all the expiration dates and get the latest one that I can.
Yeah, because especially if we're going to a poorly run grocery store, or the grocery store I used to work at, there was some nepotism involved, and the person that was in charge of the cheeses and the dairy was placed in this role after getting out of rehab. And couldn't handle the situation.
Yeah.
So we occasionally, the rest of us would go through there and notice there was a bunch of 6-month-old cheese that was sitting there.
Yeah.
And you feel bad for the customers that come in there and buy this cheese and get home and they're like, wow, this isn't what I was looking for.
Right.
Always rotate. Keep your eyes on that.
There's a lot of good life lessons in this show.
Celebrity Minute on the Warren and Bradley Show.
Celebrity Minute on the Warren and Bradley Show. Top story. Justin Bieber parties with sizzurp. Have you heard of sizzurp, Warren? No?
Is there somebody called sizzurp?
No, that's what I thought at first when I first read this story.
It's not? It's like a drink or something?
Well, this is from Us Weekly. First marijuana and now sizzurp. TMZ is reporting that Justin Bieber was recently photographed partying with rapper pals Lil Za and Lil Twist with a bottle of codeine cough syrup, known colloquially as sizzurp. The website also reports that the 18-year-old Beauty and the Beat was snapped drinking an unknown substance out of a double cup. Rappers like Lil Wayne have spoken openly about downing sizzurp, which gives a serious narcotic high out of double cups. So TMZ hasn't published these pictures yet. I guess they're just teasing the information. But now, geez, Bieber doing the marijuana, now he's drinking cough syrup.
Well, this is one of those interesting things that, like, people were doing because they were in extreme poverty.
This is what I don't understand.
And now it's like moved its way up into society and became trendy in some way. So now people who are multimillionaires are drinking cough syrup with codeine.
Well, and Justin Bieber is 19, I think. This is something you do when you're 14 behind the Rite Aid, you know? Like, you can't get your hands on any actual drug.
But that's what this is, though. This is street cred. It's an attempt to be like, oh, I'm not drinking Cristal. You know what I mean? I'm the kind of guy who smokes marijuana, and I drink my purple drink, you know?
If Justin Bieber is trying to cultivate street cred, he should give up now. It's impossible. But he is hanging out with Lil Za and Lil Twist. We've talked about the Lils before.
Yes.
What the fuck? God, that is the most obnoxious thing in the world. But anyway, we can only hope that Bieber continues down this route.
Oddly enough, Bieber again wearing his blouse and like pearl necklace.
He likes the pearl necklace. Our next story amused me quite a bit. Lady Gaga is involved in a court battle with a former assistant, Jennifer O'Neill.
Oh, yeah.
Jennifer O'Neill suing Lady Gaga for...
being a disgusting human being?
No. Oh. For over $393,000 she says she is owed for overtime. What's interesting about this story is some of the things that are coming out in the court depositions.
How much for her overtime?
$393,000.
Again, with this overtime.
Yes. Justin Bieber's former bodyguard was suing for hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of overtime as well. Yeah. This is from WENN. Lady Gaga's former personal assistant has accused the pop superstar of invading her privacy by forcing her to sleep in bed with her on tour. Jennifer O'Neill spent 13 months working for Lady Gaga and is suing the singer and her tour company over allegations she is owed $380,000. Gaga gave sworn depositions in court. Apparently her testimony was expletive-ridden. She branded O'Neill as a fucking hood rat and accused her of failing in her duties by leaving her to carry her own luggage and unpack her own bags.
Wow.
O'Neill, on the other hand, is claiming that Lady Gaga gave her no privacy. When they would stay in hotels, she would give rooms to everyone else, every other member of her entourage, but would force O'Neill to sleep in bed with her because she would not sleep alone in bed. There was some quote that O'Neill gave saying that she wasn't able to ever have sex when Lady Gaga was on tour because she was always sleeping in Lady Gaga's bed. I'm sure she could have had sex with Lady Gaga if she had wanted to.
That's a weird thing, though, to say.
Yeah. Lady Gaga said, she just thinks she's the queen of the universe. And you know what? She didn't want to be a slave to one because in my work and what I do, I'm the queen of the universe every day.
Well, yeah, I know. It was interesting that she would criticize someone for claiming to be the queen of the universe when she claims to be the queen of the universe.
Well, there can only be one queen of the universe,
I guess so.
Apparently. I like this quote as well. Talking about giving O'Neill the job to begin with. It was essentially a favor, and Jennifer was majorly unqualified for it. I expect there to be a certain level of, like, you know, knowledge and academia about, like, your job. There you go.
Academia?
Yeah.
That's a weird word to use in that situation.
So basically that's a nice little window into the insane narcissism and skewed worldview that Lady Gaga has about herself. Can you imagine being an assistant to one of these people?
I'd do it if I got offered the job. It would be really interesting.
Really? It's like 24/7 bullshit. Just constantly on call.
Oh, I wouldn't last very long. I mean, I'd last a couple days and they'd be like, no, this isn't going to work out.
Would you mind sleeping in Lady Gaga's bed every night?
That would be annoying.
Can you imagine?
Is that where the money comes from? Is the fact that, like, I was working during that time?
I guess. I
Which
don't
is
know.
true. I think that's completely valid.
I don't know how that works. If you're on call all the time, I don't know how you bill that.
Well, it's like a salary position, right?
I don't know.
But then you can't work 24 hours a day.
I just imagine her in some sort of weird leopard print nightie crawling all over you with her long fingernails and like, it would creep me out.
That would be weird. That would be a very weird job if I was in bed with Lady Gaga and she was like caressing me every night and I was just wishing I could go to my own room.
Next story, headline on Us Weekly, Jennifer Lawrence, my breasts are uneven.
Okay, Jennifer Lawrence suddenly is apparently supposed to be really hot and sexy.
Yeah.
That's news to me.
You know what? She's fine.
She's fine.
She's pretty.
But
she's now like this weird sex symbol.
Now, I know there's been this campaign, apparently by her publicist, or I don't know who, to be like Jennifer Lawrence is hot stuff.
She's like the pretty girl in high school.
Yeah, she's fine.
Yeah.
But it's awkward.
That's always how I felt. I remember when Britney Spears was first becoming popular and people were like, oh, she's hot. Like, she looks like every other blonde-haired white chick that I knew in high school.
Compared to, like, actual really, really attractive people you sometimes see in the media, right? She's, like, just like a normal pretty girl. And they're trying to sell her as, like, I know I got the Vanity Fair magazine the other week, and it had her on the front, and it said that she was, like, the most desirable woman in America or something. And I was like, her?
Again, the criteria is always, would you kick her out of bed? And no.
But that's different. That's... Yeah. The magazine didn't say, would you kick this woman out of bed?
No, you know the headline was, Jennifer Lawrence, I wouldn't kick her out of bed.
Yeah, I wouldn't kick her out of bed. It's like, well, that's true of a lot of women.
Well, now that you know that her breasts are uneven, would you kick her out of bed?
No.
Apparently don't all women have some sort of uneven...
There's no perfect symmetry of anyone.
In their boobs?
Or of anyone's face or anything. Everyone's a little bit off. Boobs, yes, of course.
Well, I will say that if I'm dating a girl, I get the Broncos out of the corral.
Yeah.
I feel them both up. And if I notice that one is just a millimeter off, that's it.
How strange that you're alone. But the other thing about Jennifer Lawrence is she's a really good actress, right?
Yeah.
So it's like...
I think that might be part of the component, though. You wouldn't kick her out of bed, and she can actually act.
So it's odd for them to, like, take this turn. I would think you want to go more of the direction where it's like, oh, Jennifer Lawrence is like Meryl Streep.
Yeah.
Or Jennifer Lawrence is like, Kate Blanchett.
Yeah.
Like the really good actress, not like Kristen Stewart.
Right.
But they're trying to push it in more of a way where it's like, oh no, she's like Kristen Stewart too. And it's like, do you want to be like Kristen Stewart? Or wouldn't you rather be the like talented actress?
Yeah, I would think her publicist would want her to be known as a serious actress and not a sex symbol.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's puzzling me.
Well,
because it just came out of nowhere since like
now that
the last
this
couple
boob
months.
news is broken, I don't think she has a chance at either. A few weeks ago, we reported on how Naomi Campbell was planning on having an elephant polo match to celebrate the birthday of her fiancé. She has just won a libel suit against a British newspaper over the story. Apparently, the story was completely false.
Good, because...
How do you make this story up out of whole cloth, though? Like, you found out that she's going to have a party for her boyfriend in Jodhpur, and you're just like, well, India, elephants, elephant polo.
I will say that I should be working for, like, Washington Post and New York Times now, because I sniffed this story out as being, like, false from the beginning.
Why didn't you say that when we reported it?
Did I say... I think I did, didn't I?
I don't think so.
Because it doesn't make any sense. It's so dangerous. It's so incredibly dangerous to do that.
Well,
there's no way you can do it.
I just felt it was important to uphold the journalistic credibility of the Warren and Bradley show that we retract our former story and correct and say that there actually was no.
I'm pretty sure during
planned.
the Lady Gaga story we just did, you just started like paraphrasing things because you couldn't find the quote.
That's true. But I got the gist of it.
Yeah.
This is an amusing story. Katie Couric had awkward date with Larry King.
The pictures of them juxtaposed against each other, he looks like he's dead. And she looks like really awkward in the picture.
Well, apparently this happened over 20 years ago when they were both in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
On her recent appearance on Jimmy Kimmel Live, she recounted the story. Quote, he picks me up from my apartment and he was driving a Lincoln Town car.
Yeah, of course.
We got to this Italian restaurant. They put us right next to each other like they do all the men and their, quote, nieces. And he ordered veal poached in chicken stock because he had just had a quadruple bypass, which was hot. King, who was 23 years her senior, asked her out when they were both living in Washington, D.C., and she was just 30 years old. At the time, she explained she was open to going out on dates with anyone because she believed they could be learning experiences regardless of outcome.
So to speak.
We're driving home, and I see we're going over Memorial Bridge, and that's not the way back to my apartment, she continued to Kimmel. So I said, Larry, where are we going? He said, my place. And I was like, oh, mother of God. Oh, God. We walk in, and it's covered with proclamations like Larry King Day and keys to every city in the country. That was sexy. So we sat there, and what can I say? He lunged. The whole situation was out of a bad Lifetime movie. Eventually, she told Larry that he was a nice man, but she would like to meet someone a little closer to his age.
Her age.
Or, yeah, to her age. Apparently, King had recounted the tale on Kimmel back in 2009, but in his version of the story, he said that she had insisted that they couldn't go back to her place because her roommate was home. So I don't know. He said, she said action here, but I can just imagine Larry King.
I believe her. Don't you believe her?
I believe her. Yes. Larry King is an insane narcissistic blowhard.
That's what he would do. That sounds like a date with Larry King, right?
Newsflash, Larry King's got a boner.
Larry King. Okay, why is Larry King... Speaking of people that just are popular for no reason, right?
Yeah.
Me and my brother used to listen to the show when we were children on the radio, and he would just yell, Kansas City, you're on the air. And then someone would say something ridiculous, and then they'd hang up on them. And then they do that again, over and over and over again. Nothing interesting talked about. Occasionally, Dr. Joyce Brothers would come on and talk for a little bit, and he'd, talk over her.
Yes.
Then someone would call it to be like, Denver, hello. And then someone would be like, talk about aliens. And then he'd hang up on that person. And then that was the show.
And it was a lot of just self-aggrandizement where he was always part of whatever was going. And I loved his proclamations of
Newsflash, Bobby De Niro, amazing actor.
It was like, oh my God, that's so insightful.
And of course, we all recall when Seinfeld was on there a few years ago, and Larry asked him if he, basically
if the show had been canceled.
It had been forced out.
Yeah.
And
Larry, it was the most popular show on network television.
Yeah.
Do you even know who I am?
Which is a perfectly valid response at that point, right?
Well, I mean, there's a little bit of narcissism involved with Seinfeld as well, but
it's true. If you know anything, you know that didn't happen.
Larry King is a pair of shoulder pads and suspenders who has just been reanimated. He just sits there and spouts off strange Larry King-isms, and people just go, oh my God, he's a genius. I don't know. I think other people think he's a joke too, but he's such an institution that nobody can do anything about it.
Well, he finally got forced off the air a couple years ago.
Yeah, but he's held in high regard.
Not by Couric.
It's finally happened. Rihanna has come out publicly and said that her and Chris Brown are back together. She says, we know exactly what we have now.
Oh, good.
It's from Us Magazine. Rihanna is clear-eyed and painfully aware of what fans and detractors must think of her very public, very controversial romantic reconciliation with Chris Brown. She opened up the new Rolling Stone issue about the scrutinized reunion with Brown. She said, I decided it was more important for me to be happy.
More important than what? Safe?
Yeah, sane, healthy. I wasn't going to let anybody's opinion get in the way of my happiness. Even if it's a mistake, it's my mistake. Everyone has known that they've been back together for the last few months.
It's been taking some really tough reporting, but I think amongst the tweeting, I think we can tell, right?
Well, I don't think we have to worry because she says, it's different now. We don't have those types of arguments anymore. We talk about shit. We value each other. We know exactly what we have now, and we don't want to lose that.
Oh, they're going to be together forever and be happy forever.
Well, he doesn't have the luxury of fucking up again, she said. That's just not an option. I think he's proved that he has no impulse control. There's another recent story about him getting in a brawl with Frank Ocean over a parking spot. It's like, and this just happened recently. Frank Ocean has declined to press charges, and there's, it's kind of a, who knows if Frank Ocean started it or Chris Brown started it, but basically there was a giant brawl with all their entourages, and apparently Chris Brown punched Frank Ocean in the face. So this is somebody who has been given multiple second chances. Everyone knows that he's got an anger problem, and you would think that with all the scrutiny, that he would be extra careful not to punch an openly gay R&B star.
As far as I can tell, these things all serve him, so why would he ever change his behavior at all?
I guess. So, I don't know.
Watch out, Rihanna.
Should we get a pool going as to when he's going to beat the shit out of her next?
That's something we're not going to do.
Okay. Yeah, you're probably right. All right. I think that's all the time we have for Celebrity Minute on the Warren and Bradley Show.
Oh, too bad.
This has been Celebrity Minute on the Warren and Bradley Show.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Sitting at home, bored, alone. You have Netflix streaming, but you don't know what to watch. Well, Now you do with Netflix Picks on the Warren and Bradley Show.
Yes, we're back with another Netflix Picks on the Warren and Bradley Show. I'm going to start it right off with a movie that I love. I think I first watched this 4 or 5 years ago, and I've maybe seen it 8-9 times since then.
Wow, really?
Yes, it is an excellent movie. It is called The Twilight Samurai. It is currently streaming on Netflix. Movie is from 2002. I will read the Netflix description now. Seibe Iguchi, a recent widower and impoverished accountant, eschews his responsibilities as a samurai in order to care for his 2 daughters and ailing mother. But when his clan leaders demand that he take a dangerous assignment, he cannot refuse. This film was directed by Yoji Yamada, who was a very well-known director in Japan who had mostly done these kind of weird screwball comedies for almost his entire career, basically with the same character, and he did these very formulaic films over and over and over and over. And this was the last film of his career. And I remember critics talking about this at the time, like, we had no idea that this director had this movie in him. It was very strange because this movie is very self-reflective, very poignant, kind of melancholy, sad. It takes place just a few years before the Meiji Restoration. If any of you know anything about Japanese history, this is when Emperor took control of the Japanese government from the Tokugawa shogunate. I don't know if we need to get to all this, but basically,
that's the period when everything was really isolated, right? That's when this ended.
For over 200 years, Japan had been completely isolated from the rest of the world, and the samurai society was completely ingrained. And then there was the Meiji Restoration. They opened themselves up to the West. So this is basically the waning years of the samurai. There had been peace forever. The main character, Seibe, is a very low-ranking samurai, basically like a worker bee in an office nowadays. He has the distinction of being a samurai, but his job is very pointless. It's like he goes to work every day. He's not fighting. They're not fighting anymore. He's just like a bureaucrat. He has 2 daughters who he can barely clothe or keep fed. And it's this interesting contemplative story about someone who loves his family and is trying to do the best for his family and basically is faced with a decision that he has to make about where he's going to go in life and what he can do to either gain prestige within his clan or to help his family. And a lot of people see this and think it's some kind of crazy action movie. It's not at all. Some might even call it a slow film. But
More Twilight than Samurai, you might say?
Exactly. But I highly recommend it. It's one of my favorite movies, one of my favorite Japanese movies, and it is currently streaming on Netflix. And I checked, it is the subtitled version, not the dubbed version.
Oh, thank God.
Thank God. The next one, get a little theme going here, is another Japanese movie, 13 Assassins, or Jusanin no Shikaku. From 2011, this is a film by Takeshi Miike, who is a very prolific director in Japan. He has had a insane career. He's directed more than like 40 movies. Many of them are crazy, pulpy genre films. Just really weird, eclectic career. Another movie of his that I really like is called Audition, which is just this fucked up movie.
I've seen that movie.
To read from the Netflix description. To stop a tyrant from murdering and exploiting innocent civilians, 13 samurai warriors unite and prepare to end his life. But to kill the evildoer, the assassins must contend with an army of deadly bodyguards who outnumber them by a wide margin. Directed by acclaimed and prolific Japanese filmmaker Takeshi Miike, this action-packed samurai remake features Yasuke Isaya, Yoji Yakusho, Takayuki Yamada, and Tsuyoshi Ihara. Basically, the last hour of this film is one insane action sequence. The villain in the film is the most over-the-top evil villain you could possibly imagine.
Ooh.
It's long, it's bloody, hyper-violent, but also kind of reminiscent of maybe a film that Akira Kurosawa would have made in like 1965, but with a modern kind of weird twist to it. It was very well reviewed, but I've watched it with a couple people, and people seem to be very divided on whether or not they like it. People either love it or they hate it.
Are you saying this movie's polarizing?
It's polarizing. Ooh. A little bit. But again, I highly recommend it. And again, I checked, and it is the subtitled version. So there you have it. Twilight Samurai and 13 Assassins. Getting a little Japanese action going on Netflix Picks.
Oh, good.
On the Warren and Bradley Show.
This has been Netflix Picks on the Warren and Bradley Show.
Okay, something occurred to me the other day, and I'd like your take on it, Warren.
All right.
Would you rather your mind as it is now, your predilections, your desires, you are a straight man. You are attracted to women. Would you rather continue with those same desires, those same attractions? You want women, but your penis only responds to men? Or would you rather be attracted to men, but you could only be sexually aroused by women?
Neither of these seem very good, right?
Well, what would you rather have?
So I'd be like, oh, I'm attracted to this woman. I'd bring her home and be like,
but it won't,
making
it
out
won't
with
work.
her. But I would, okay.
Yeah.
So then, but if I ever want to actually achieve an orgasm, I'd have to have like a man over. But I wouldn't be attracted to the man. I wouldn't want him.
Exactly. What would be most frustrating? So, and the thing is, if you're attracted on the flip side of the coin, where you're attracted to men, but you achieve sexual release with women,
yes,
you still have your same mind, which I know seems strange because you're attracted to women now, but you're still straight, but
are you?
The things that arouse you are, you know, a man in a banana hammock sashaying in front of you.
But I don't think that's straight.
But your body responds to women. So there's a disconnect between your penis and your brain.
I've actually heard people refer to this before.
Oh, does this actually exist?
No, just in the sense that like people will be like, how do you know you're not gay unless you've like tried it?
That's stupid.
But that's the
stupidest
But that's
fucking
the
argument.
distinction you're like making with this thing though too, right?
Well, but
So
mine's
it's
a
like,
hypothetical.
The people that I would achieve sexual release with are the same people I'm attracted to. There aren't two different things.
Well, yeah.
They're all part of one thing.
But this is if you have some weird disjointed mind-body thing going on.
I guess I would rather still be attracted to women, and then I would like make out with a woman and then like be like, I have to go now. And I look at a computer and look at like gay porn and achieve release.
No,
then I would come back and she'd be like, what happened? I'd be like, let me tell you a strange story.
It doesn't work that way because
I actually have to have a man there.
Well, you're not going to be, you can't just look at an image of a man and achieve release because you need to be aroused by that man. But you're aroused.
Oh, I have to be physically aroused.
Yeah, you're aroused by women, but you can only have sex with men.
It's puzzling, isn't it?
And the flip side, you're aroused by men, but you can only have sex with women.
This I would just need to find like transsexual, right? That's what
So
would
you're
be.
trying to find these loopholes. I don't know if this is going to work.
No. But I mean, just practically, that is the way you'd handle the situation. Because how else could you handle the situation?
So would you go for like a woman to man or a man to woman?
You see, if I was the man who was attracted to women but could only achieve sexual release with a man, I would have to be with the man that went to a woman, right? So it looked like a woman, and I was like, I'm really attracted to this woman. But it was actually a man down below. Yeah.
Now I'm getting confused.
See what I mean?
Yeah.
Then you could actually, then it would work, right?
I guess.
Because it would technically
I'm
be
the
a
one
man.
who came up with this thing, but I'm still not,
it would
sure about
be a man,
the rules.
so you could actually have sex with it.
Okay.
But it would look like a woman, so it would be the kind of person you were attracted to.
But how would you feel knowing, because you are consummately straight right now.
Oh, I'm the straightest man around.
You are, and everyone knows this. So you would still have that mindset and that mentality. Would you feel just horrible about having to have sex with a man?
No.
No.
Well, this is interesting, right? Do you think if you suddenly wanted to have sex with a man, would you feel horrible about yourself?
But you don't want to. You want to have sex with women,
but you do want
can't.
to because isn't the whole point of having? Then why would you have sex at all?
Because if
you don't want to do it,
it's a complete disconnect between your desires and your physiology. So, like, let's say there's a separate brain in your penis.
So the whole point of having the man around is so that you can have an orgasm.
Yeah, I guess.
Right? Because you're disconnecting two things that are the same thing, right?
I guess
You're saying, like, being attracted...
So, okay, well, I've read before that women have this disconnect between arousal and drive. So maybe they'll become aroused, but they don't necessarily have the drive to have sex every time they're aroused. Whereas men, it seems like arousal and drive to have sex are one and the same, or they go together completely.
They're the same thing.
So with you see a woman, you're like, oh my God, she's beautiful.
Yeah.
She's amazing. Uh-huh. I want her badly. You're aroused mentally.
Okay.
In the most extreme way you could possibly be. That does not translate to Mr. Penis down below.
Yeah.
But then there's a man, he's cut. He's got his shirt off. He's wearing some like tight, cut off jeans where the pockets are sticking out. They're so short.
Yeah.
You could see he's got a lot of action going on between the legs there.
Trying not to be attracted.
And mentally, you're like, oh, I don't want to look at this shirtless man with a giant package and tiny little cutoffs. But your penis is going, ooh. It grows at the sight.
Okay. I don't think these two things you can't disconnect the two things.
But you have in my strange hypothetical.
But I see the problem is that it's like, what are you feeling at that point, right? Because if you're looking at the man, but you're not attracted to him, but you have an erection.
Yes.
Well, then you wouldn't go for the man. Because the point of having the erection isn't the fact that you have the erection. The point is the attraction that's going on in your brain.
You would never achieve sexual release then.
Well, I thought I was going to go for the transsexual.
Well, maybe.
Unless the only other thing you can do, right, is you could hire prostitutes.
Yeah.
And you could bring a woman and a man home and then be like, woman, 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 then go to the man.
So you would have the woman there. You would get yourself going mentally. You would still not have an erection.
Yes.
Then you throw a sheet over her, or there's like a guy under a sheet. You take the sheet off him and put it on the woman, and he's there waiting.
And suddenly you're like, now I have to have
suddenly
sex.
It goes, but then your arousal would go way down. So what you
were saying is that the erection's going to go way up.
You know what you do?
What do you do?
This is what you do.
Okay.
You get a screen that has like a hole in it. You have the woman's top half sticking through one part of it, and it'll be like one of those, sawing a guy in half, a magician's prop.
Yeah.
From the bottom half, you have the man. From the waist down, you have the woman from the waist up.
But see, what's implied here is that there is some sort of weird disconnect between the top half of your body and the bottom half of your body.
There is.
And for somehow there's sensory organs on the bottom half of your body that can smell a man, and that's the only thing it wants. But the top half of your body and your brain wants a woman.
Yes.
So that's why you have to build this elaborate prop.
Yeah.
Because your penis is I don't want to get anywhere near that woman. But then
but your brain does. Man. Your brain wants to be near.
The brain wants. So you have to build this double layered sex box.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're just going to be constantly frustrated because you'll be like, okay, you're living your life. You see all these women. You want these women, but then you get them home and you're like, oh, this isn't going to work. It's not going to happen. And then you're like, okay, I want to have sex so badly that I'm going to try to force myself to go prowling the street for these party boys, these fun boys, these lollipop men. And then you grab one, you get them home. And even though you might be, we need the slide whistle sound effect here going on. Even though you might be pitching a tent, mentally you don't want anything to do with this man. And he's like, hello. He's waiting on the couch. But no, it's not going to happen.
That's why the tranny solution's the best.
So either you would have to just grit your teeth and have sex with these men, even though you hated every minute of it, or you would just have to hang out with these women who you want, but you just be completely sexually frustrated all the time.
Yeah. You know what I might do if this situation actually did occur? I probably just wouldn't have sex.
Yeah.
I would, you know what I mean? I'd probably go see a doctor and be like, I've got something weird going on. And he's like, that can't be true. And I'm like, it's true.
That's Brad.
But then the doctor, of course, and everyone would be like, well, obviously you're just repressing your homosexuality, right?
Right.
You're like, but no. I promise I'm not. No, yeah, I would probably just I'd be celibate at that point.
Well, of course, and then there was the opposite, though. The would you rather, where you're insanely attracted to men, but you could only actually physically have sex with women.
But it's the same problem, right?
It is. But
it doesn't make any difference.
Basically, I'm trying to see if you're homophobic. So would you rather just have sex with the woman that you weren't actually attracted to? Or with the bum boy?
I'm not going to have sex with anybody.
Okay.
That's what I've come to. What are you going to do? Seriously, as far as your identity, my identity and your identity, because we are straight guys, we've always been straight, right?
Right.
So if you were going to choose which way you were going to go,
I would say the woman.
You'd probably say straight, right? Because otherwise you have to be well, now I'm attracted to men. Everyone's like, oh, you're attracted to men? You're like, yeah, because I had to choose between the two. For some reason I went with this.
Well, but see, that's the difference. Is your sexual identity wrapped up in who you're attracted to or who you have sex with?
Your sexual identity is wrapped up probably in how you identify yourself, right?
But in both of these situations...
But the other thing is, though, shouldn't you be having sex with the people you're attracted to?
In a perfect world, yes. But in this situation, you still identify yourself as straight.
Okay.
But mentally, you're attracted to these men. And so if you still identify yourself as straight, mentally you're attracted to the men, but you can only get sexual release with the women, wouldn't you just go ahead and have sex with the women, even though you hated every minute of it because you identify as straight?
No, the way you're laying this out, if I was the person that's attracted to the woman, but I can only have sex with a man, then I would be homosexual at that point, right?
Yeah.
But if you were attracted to a man you'll be a heterosexual.
But you could only have sex with women.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, that's what I'm saying. You're heterosexual, but you're attracted to men.
Well, I don't know if we could say this for sure, because that's the question I'm asking. Is your
No, I'm saying the
sexual-
person, who you have sex with, that's what sexuality you are.
Probably.
Unless you're in some sort of like dungeon and you're being abused. Yes. Right?
I guess.
I think that's the litmus test of like, is this person
I
straight?
like
Is
this
this person
dungeon.
gay?
I don't know what this guy who set this dungeon up is doing, but he's like, okay, I'm going to get people who are very straight, and I'm going to
Make
force
them have
them to
gay
have sex
sex.
with
And
men.
I'm gonna have gay people down here, and I'm going to make them have straight sex.
Yeah, which is an interesting experiment. I'd like to see what happens there.
If for some reason the world we grew up in everyone was by default gay,
Yeah.
and that the weird people were straight,
The weird people.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, be
The people
careful.
that were unusual, the queer people, were straight.
Okay.
And then so we're like, ugh, so we have these gay marriages we go through, right?
Yeah.
And you're always tempted though by those women.
But you and I were like the 10% or so whatever.
Yeah,
it
we're the
is.
weirdos.
Yeah.
But do you think you feel the same way about having sex with men in that society?
That's an interesting thought. I've thought about this a lot too with women who fool around with bisexuality, maybe when they're 21
Yeah.
and they're like, oh, I'm going to sleep with a girl. And it seems a lot easier for them to do that than it would be for me to, like, if I were 21 and some guy was like, hey, come on, maybe it'd be cool. I'd be like, no, this isn't happening. It won't be cool. I know right now it's not going to be cool. Why is it easier for these women to? Maybe it's because there's less of a.
There's less of like a cultural stigma around that.
Yeah.
And as much as
Also just the physical mechanics of it, I think, are less invasive, shall we say.
well, especially to you as a man, right?
Yeah.
As straight men who have grown up in a society that's pretty homophobic,
Yeah.
we're like, why would we ever do that, right? We can't imagine going to that place.
Yeah.
Whereas if you grow up in a society that's different, then you're going to feel different ways about it.
But I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's possible for me to divorce myself from the societal pressure that I've had all my life.
No, it's
but
not.
I really feel like even if there had been no societal pressure for me to be straight, I still feel so
Straight?
disgusted by the male form. Like, I cannot even conceive of being aroused by a man. Can you? No. I mean, I'm
going to put that on a loop.
Let me just.
that's all right.
Let me
Please,
unzip
put
this
that
here.
away.
Let me just lift this up a little bit. Ooh.
Yeah.
What do you see there, Warren?
It's like a really ugly belly button.
Ugly? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
It's not an Audi. It's like, ooh, look at
Sorry.
this little
You're-
hair going down there.
Your temptations will not work on
Look,
me.
I'm kind of rubbing my stomach a little bit. Ooh. So that didn't do anything for you?
No. It is true, though. It's hard to divorce yourself from, like,
Yeah.
where you come from.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of when I first became aware of my sexual urges as a youngster.
This podcast is
I
going
know. It's
weird
disturbing.
direction. If
But-
you just tuned in, this isn't how the show usually goes. I remember the first time I liked a girl.
Yeah.
I was in kindergarten.
No, okay.
And I remember feeling like... That's the weird thing about being a kid, though, and liking girls, because you feel shame about it.
This is interesting because all your peer pressure as a little kid is like, ew, girls are gross. And
Yeah.
don't hang out with girls, don't play with girls. But in the back of your mind, even though you go along with it, you are like, I still had crushes on girls.
Yes.
I still wanted to be around girls. And there was no sexual component to it. And it wasn't me trying to recreate some thing I'd seen adults doing, like,
No.
oh, men and women are together. That never would have occurred to me at that time.
Yeah.
But I still wanted to gravitate towards women
Yeah.
at that age. So it's interesting.
Yeah. You'll hear stories, right, about people who come out of the closet later in life. They'll be like, oh, I didn't know I was gay until I was like a teenager.
Yeah.
And I think I felt like I was straight since I was a very small child. So it's hard for you to...
Well, I guess there's just a spectrum. You know, there's people who maybe their sexuality is more amorphous and then finally it emerges once they become...
Well, there's a spectrum that way, and there's also a spectrum in the fact that if you were a 5-year-old and you were like a gay 5-year-old, let's say.
And I've
Which is
known some gay 5-year-olds, I think.
We've all seen gay 5-year-olds running
Yeah.
around. If there was no context for you to how to feel about your feelings, right? You wouldn't be like, oh, I must be a gay 5-year-old.
Yeah. All right. So you would rather be... to answer the question, finally, you would rather be attracted...
I'm gonna stay attracted to females.
and have sex with men.
I'm probably not gonna end up having sex with men, though.
I thought you decided that you were going to be attracted to the men but have sex with women.
No. I decided I'm gonna stay attracted to women and have sex with men. but
but not have sex.
I'm probably not going to have sex because but like you mentioned, like your rules about this makes it logistically impossible to have sex.
You
right?
You just won't like it.
Yeah, exactly. And that there's no reason to have sex if you don't like it.
All right, that's all I wanted to know.
What do you feel the same way about it?
No.
What are you going to do?
I'm going to have sex with women and be attracted to men.
Why?
Because I want to have sex with women, but I wouldn't.
But you don't want to have sex with women.
It's an impossible question. I was just trying to catch you out, see your latent homosexuality come to the surface, so I could make fun of you.
Oh well, but apparently you're going to be attracted to men, so there you go.
Well, maybe that's always been the case. Warren. All right, that's enough time for the Warren and Bradley Show this week. This has been one of your hosts, Bradley Victor.
This is your other host, Warren Van,
saying,
I hope you're both attracted and want to have sex with the same gender.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all hope that for all of you.
That's how Paul Harvey used to end his show.
This has been the Warren and Bradley Show, brought to you by Warren Van and Bradley Victor. For podcast news and information, like the show on Facebook at facebook.com/Warren and Bradley. Follow the show on Twitter at Warren and Brad. Subscribe on iTunes and leave a review. For episode archives and episode pictures, go to warrenandbradley.com, and to contact the show, write to podcast at warrenandbradley.com.